we dancing. Part of our culture, no way rotating, no. Don't let the devil tempt you. Christian from the Caribbean and music is a part of our life. Yeah, we dance and raise flag, but we represent Jesus Christ. Yeah, promote no reveling, cause the Bible not tell me them thing is sin. Used to do them thing before, but Jesus cleansed me from deep within. So no more partying, no more drinking, no. Cause Jesus saved me, but me dance when the gospel hit me. Caribbean Christian and dancing in my blood. Caribbean Christian and dancing in my blood, my blood. Caribbean Christian and dancing in my blood. Caribbean Christian and dancing in my blood, my blood. Don't hold me, let me dance. Don't hold me, let me dance. Oh yeah, let me dance to Jesus. Let me dance to Jesus. Oh yeah, dance to Jesus. Oh yeah. Young and old, come along. Everyone can do it. No worry about nothing. It ain't got no weight limit. Cause this party is heavenly. That's the problem gone away. It's a new kind of dancing. Can lead you to your healing. So get up and dance. Dance your problem them away. I know you've been waiting long, but your breakthrough is today. Forget about every negative thing. Get up and dance into your blessing. It might look confusing, but it's Caribbean.
Greetings to one and all in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Facebook, YouTube, it's a pleasure and a blessing to be with you again today. Those of you who are looking at us, you are from probably your hospital bed, you are looking at us from your job, you are looking at us from your homes, you are looking at us, maybe you are sad, maybe you're not in a happy place, maybe you are all joyful, everything is going your way. Listen to me. Wherever you are looking at us, under what situation, what circumstance, you are going to be blessed. You are going to be encouraged. Nice. We always look forward to your presence, and we are happy that you are here with us today. You are looking at us for the first time. We are youths with a difference. I am Reverend Yolande. What do? We feature the young and the young at heart in Christ. This is a generation with a lot to offer. We empower, we inspire, we educate, and we are making a difference wherever we are in the world, wherever we are in our homes, in our society, in our country, in our neighborhood. We are making a difference. So now, I'm going to give you a chance, the opportunity to share the live, tag someone, go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We're going to go and some ad, we will be back. So we are giving you a chance to allow others, to invite others, tell them, look, Youth with a Difference is on today. We will be back.
Caribbean Christian and dancing in my blood, boy. Don't hold me, let me dance. Don't hold me, let me dance. Oh yeah, let me dance to Jesus. Young and old, come along, everyone can do it. No worry about nothing, it ain't got no weight limit. Cause this party is heavenly. That's the problem gone away. It's a new kind of dancing. Can lead you to your healing. So get up and dance your problem them away. I know you've been waiting long, but your breakthrough is today. Forget about every negative thing. Get up and dance into your blessing. It might look confusing, but it's Caribbean Christian living. Caribbean Christian and dancing in my blood. Caribbean Christian and dancing in my blood, my blood. Caribbean Christian and dancing in my blood. Caribbean Christian and dancing in my blood, my blood. Don't hold me, let me dance. Don't hold me, let me dance. Oh yeah, let me dance to Jesus. Let me dance to Jesus. Oh yeah, dance to Jesus. Oh yeah, yeah. I say don't hold me, leave me, let me dance. Don't hold step and dancing in my blood, my blood.
Welcome back, everyone. For the month of August, we have been featuring some really interesting, beautiful people on our program. And we call it Serving God, Serving Country. These people are people who are serving our country in different sphere of whatever they do. And today we have two beautiful people with us, serving God, serving country. First of all, we have Ambassador Makeda Antoine-Cambridge. Makeda is an innovative, purpose-driven, and conscientious leader in the field of information and communications technology. She has served as the 10th ambassador for Trinidad and Tobago to the United Nations and all the UN agencies across Europe. She had been to Geneva, Switzerland. At the United Nations, she held several leadership positions. She was also the ambassador for Italy and Austria. Currently, Makeda is a social entrepreneur, the founder and CEO of Genesis International Limited, where she is committed to empowering communities through technology-driven entrepreneurship and bringing small business into the digital economy. She's happily married to Dr. Jason Cambridge and resides in Switzerland. Makeda, welcome to Youths with a Difference.
Thank you, Reverend Yolande. It is a pleasure to be here. I just want to prepare you. I have a little 6 months guest, so he might be a little disruptive this evening. But it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. And I thank you again for the opportunity to share my experiences and hopefully inspire some young or young and heart person to take their ordinary lives to do extraordinary things.
Thank you, Makeda. Your guest is certainly welcome. Yes. We have with us Major Richard Lynch. Richard Lynch is a policy and strategy consultant with extensive experience in the design and implementation of a range of national, regional, and international policies, strategies, and programs towards the security and development interests and aspirations of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. He is currently the Deputy Director of International Affairs at the Ministry of National Security in Trinidad and Tobago. He is the Senior Advisor to the Minister of National Security on all matters that require cooperation and collaboration with international partners and works closely with Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs in this regard. He's happily married to his wife, Mrs. Vanda Lynch, for the past 17 years. Major Lynch, welcome to Youths with a Difference.
Good evening, and thank you very much, Reverend Dates, for inviting me on your program. I've been listening to the program as you've come along with it, and I think it's such an important platform for young people in the country and young at heart to be able to make contributions towards the country. I'm happy that this month, you had the foresight to focus on serving God and serving country, and I look forward to our discussions today, particularly within that context. So once again, thank you, and I have to say a public hello to my good friend Makeda, who I've had the privilege of working with during her tenure as UN ambassador in Geneva, and we collaborated quite a lot in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago. So here we go. I look forward to a great session. Thank you.
You're welcome, Major Lynch.
Yeah.
Isn't God awesome? God is so awesome.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
As ambassador, different period of time. And look, You all are on the program together. God is awesome. Ambassador Antoine-Cambridge, tell me something. You know, sometimes we hear, Ambassador, I look at your bio, and you know, as I was saying, the bio of both of you all alone could be the entire program. You know, it is, I mean, really long and dynamic, powerful. You know, and this is why I feel privileged to be doing this program today and to be doing the program all of August, because I would like to say publicly thank you to all who are serving our country in some way or the other. You all are not only serving country, but you all are serving God. And
Absolutely.
this, to me, makes it so, you know, powerful to see children of God, you know, not only in the four walls of the church, but they are also serving country. Ambassador, tell me, we are seeing the glory, and sometimes people see the glamour, they see the glory. However, there must be a story behind the glory. Tell me where your story began.
I tell you, this is by far the most nervous interview I've had. With this 6 months old, and I have no control over.
That's okay.
It is his bedtime that he's the most testy at this time. My story. You know, I normally laugh and say I am the little country girl who used to tell goats. I come from a family of 9. I'm number 7. My mother and father both didn't get the opportunity to finish primary school. And as a child, I think people would say I was a little bit precocious. I was introverted and conservative, but I had a quiet bravery that was not normal.
Wow.
They would describe me like that. And I think I had parents with above average work ethic. So they had some very, very strong values about being true to who you are, giving God his just due, being reliable, being committed,
Right.
having integrity. You know, those old school values, they're still very relevant today, but we call them old school. And I think coming from that background, like I say to people, I don't think I'm anything that's special. But any opportunity I had, I always made sure that I gave it my best. I think that was my focus. And if you look at my career, I graduated the most outstanding CXC student. I had A levels. I did AdMat. Um, then I did my bachelor's at CUC.
Yes.
That was like a faith walk in itself. Yes, Jaira. Yes, Jaira. Yes, Jaira. Yes. And went by faith. Went by faith.
Yes.
The first year I didn't even have tuition. And one opportunity led to next. Literally one opportunity led to next
Wow.
into spaces where sometimes people know you from your work or your work ethic, or sometimes
Yes.
people recommend you because they have worked with you in the past.
Right.
I always say to young people, there is nothing so special in her. I always would say as a child, I grew up hearing the horn blow from Petrotrin. The seven
Yes.
horn to signal time for work. And just knowing the nepotism that exists in my country, knowing that those opportunities would not be made available to me, even if I
Right.
graduate with 10 levels, people who have 2 and 3 are working Petrotrin, and I would not even get an interview. Knowing that as a child,
Wow.
I had a father who would say, if you don't have a job, you create a job. I have a
Okay.
mother who would say, if you don't know anybody, you know Jesus. You don't need to know anybody else. So I
Wow.
think that kind of background created the foundation for who I was. So when I came into the world, people would say, oh, I live in my own bubble. But I think that was my foundation. So I didn't have to depend or do things that I would have regretted in the long run to get where I needed to be, because my value system guided who I was and where I went. And literally just went from one job to the next. And I always say it to young people when I talk to them. all of my jobs till 2007, I found in the newspaper. Going to
Wow.
the newspaper, sending out envelopes, sending out your CVs, no contact, no nepotism, no anybody. You just know God and a prayer.
Yes. Wow.
And He has a plan for your life. When you say yes to Him, He orchestrates the whole thing as He wants it to be done. So I
Yes.
definitely say this is ordained by God.
Very well. Major Lynch, I have to ask you the same question. You were a member of the Defense Force. You are now a policy and strategy consultant. And both of you, I am seeing very interesting portfolios. Where your story began?
Hmm. Reverend Dates, when I was listening to Makeda, I couldn't help but observe the similarities.
Wow.
I was born in Laventille, and I make the joke that I wasn't born. Well, first of all, I wasn't born in a hospital. I was born at home with a
Okay.
midwife.
Okay.
So my what was left when I was born was buried in a yard down in a place called Harlem in Tumakak in Laventille, which will
Wow.
be very familiar to you, Sister
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
And by 1976, my family moved to Movant, where I lived for the rest of my childhood. Um, you know, but the interesting thing about growing up and being born in Laventille and being raised in Movant is that the 70s and the 80s for me was a period of what I call all things in common. So as Makeda talked about, I grew up in a community in Movant and Coconut Drive where we lived in Coconut Drive, we worked, we learned, we recreated. Everything took place in the community. And so I was raised not to feel any less than my neighbors, right? We had literally all things in common. Our parents were all hardworking people who bought their homes and settled in the community, and they were generally around the same level of socioeconomic status and so on, persons in the community. And we were all going to school and trying to form this community called in Coconut Drive. But as I ventured out of Movant, for the first time I discovered that, the society didn't see me through the lens that I was nurtured in, which is, all things in common. Um, the society saw me, I experienced the society through the lens of, well, you are from Movant, so that means you are not necessarily as valuable to the society as persons who grew up in other areas. But I tell you, being raised by God-fearing parents and parents who had a tremendous work ethic, it served me well as I ventured into the world of work and to participate in societal affairs. That sense of, I am not better than anybody, but nobody is better than I am, and we all come from the same potential created by God. And for those of us who have entered into a covenant relationship with God, there's an opportunity to be the head and not the tail, above and not beneath. And I took that seriously, so, I tell you, there are many times when I work in different environments and so on, and they don't say it through biblical terms, but you see it through the expression, can any good thing come out of Nazareth or Movant? And I look at that, and it gives me a certain sense of pride that God can do anything with anybody who yield themselves to Him and prepare to work hard towards achieving those goals. Yeah.
I'm looking at all of your accomplishments and all you are doing presently. As a young person growing up in church, what did you visualize for yourself? Some people would visualize themselves. One person told me at one time, I always see myself being a nurse. I always see myself with children, you know. Everything, with me was about children. And because of that, I become a teacher. What did you visualize for yourself as a young man growing up in church?
Well, the thing is, I was raised in a Christian home with Christian parents, and I have to say there was some, by my mid-teens, I did not necessarily hold on to the foundation that I knew, but by my early 20s, I recommitted, my mid-20s, I recommitted myself to the Lord. And yeah, at that time, I really didn't have any major goals and aspirations in terms of what I wanted to do with my life. I was already in the military because we joined the military between 18 and 24 years old. So I was a very young man, a young adult, a youth. And so there was a certain kind of structure to my life, being a military person. But the thing about it is one day, I was driving home and I literally heard the voice of God in my mind. And he said to me, son, if you fully yield to me, I am going to transform your life and use you in ways that you never thought possible. And at that point in my life, I was already clear that to my best efforts, I could not really amount to anything that was satisfying to my soul. And I said yes. And that began a journey that sometimes today I still look back and I ask myself, wow, I mean, what God has done. Look what God has done, and so I'm not one of those who will tell you, growing up from small, I always wanted to be in the military, or
Right.
I always wanted to serve my country at the levels that I'm doing it. No, it wasn't like that. But as I walked with God, God started revealing to me what He wanted me to do with my life, or what He wanted to do with my life. And even so, as I look back, I realized that there were stages of preparation all the way, even before I got saved, that prepared me for what I'm doing now. My parents were patriots. I say to people, this country has the benefit of different generations who have made their impact on the world. My parents were born in the 40s, and they were born into a colony, and they were young adults, they were youths during the period of independence. So for them, there's a certain kind of patriotism to the sovereignty of this country that my parents passed on to us. We believe in the country. We believe in this place called Trinidad and Tobago, and we are fighting for it.
Yes.
And we are fighting for its betterment, its development. And I'm sure we're going to get into this later on in the interview. But yeah, I can't say that I set out to be a soldier, but I can say that I can see God's hand working through my family and my schooling, to prepare me to serve the country in some form or fashion. Yeah.
Very well. Makeda, you are doing well. I'm looking at all of your accomplishments and all that you are doing presently. As a young person growing up in church, what did you visualize for yourself?
I liked Richard's response though, but not having all these big dreams. And I think one time Patrick Manning spoke to me and he said, normally the people who don't want it is the people that God chooses. Normally you are the one who running from the leadership and he said, hey, you need to, I'm like, I think you're talking to the wrong person. I'm the same. I come from very humble beginnings and I was content with being a teacher. And it's so ironic. I remember applying for teaching and all my friends with less CXCs and got called and I was never called. Never
Wow.
called private government. And I said, but that don't make sense. And one of my friends said, because you're not supposed to go there. But I had no great aspirations. People had aspirations for me. Like my
Right.
teachers would speak things into my life. My church, for sure,
Very nice.
they saw that leadership in me from young, and I was like, crazy. I think you're looking at the wrong child, because I remember I used to stammer out of between 7 and 10. So I'm like, me, you want to embarrass me? So I didn't have any great ambitious goals. I wanted to be a teacher, and probably one child I always plan to adopt because I believe children need love and there's so many suffering. Not in my wildest dreams, Imad. Even this week, right now, I'm Guyana for business. And I said to my sister, why did I have to live all this life all over the world? Like, why did
Wow.
God choose me for this? And she said, He knows why. At this age, even if that's been my life, I still accept and I still question sometimes, why me? Like,
Yes.
what is so unique? Why didn't you choose somebody else? So I do think what Patrick Manning said has a lot of sense. God knows what he's looking at. He's looking at the heart. And
Yes.
sometimes we get chosen because we don't care for it. We're not pursuing it. We're not running after it. We're not plotting to get it. And my humble beginnings, I'm telling you, a teacher would have made my mother proud, and that's all I wanted to be.
Wow.
One time I wanted to be a lawyer,
Uh-huh.
and my mother say a lawyer is a liar, so you can't be a lawyer. I'm so serious. But now my niece is a lawyer because I made sure and tell her you can be an honest lawyer. Don't worry.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was influenced by my background, and I did not have very high aspirations because somehow society told you those positions were not for you.
That's right. That's
You,
right.
and I remember even in these roles, people would say, "Who's your father? Who's your mother?"
Tell me
Like,
this thing.
like if that is how you should be there. Yeah, and I would just say, God is my father, and Frankie Antoine is the earthly one. I don't think you know him, but yeah, I think it was just him doing what he does.
I know you believe in youth leadership. Tell me to what extent and what led you to this.
I I do have to credit my church for that. Okay, pull mommy's here. My church is big. I'm Seventh Day Adventist, and my church is very big on youth leadership. Very big. So from 10, 11, you will be youth leader of your teenage, of your peers.
Right.
12, I was a youth leader. At 15, I was on the board as an assistant treasurer. So my church saw things in me. Even my pastor is still like my spiritual leader today. I was talking to him, Pastor Owen Jack. They saw, and even Pastor Moses, who's the conference president. He's not having this one.
But Kira, let me go to Richard and I'll get back to you.
Yes.
Sure.
Right? I'll get back to you. Richard, how were you able to emerge beyond the four walls of the church, allowing Richard Lynch to be of service to a wider community? You know, both church and state, church and
Yeah.
country.
Yeah. Well, Rev, I tell you, all things work together for the good to them that love God and are called according to His purpose. When I got saved and being in the military, I already had a strong sense of commitment to the country. But as I began to study God's word, it became very clear to me that, it is at the coming of Christ and his ascension to the Father, the church was being established. Now that's 2022 years ago. But if we study church history and biblical history, I should say, there are other institutions that God dealt with and created actually long before the church. So, in the garden, He created the individual, and then He created the family. And out of this family became many nations. And God constantly was dealing with the individual and the family and the church. I mean, Israel was an individual, but Israel is also a family, and Israel was also a nation, and God dealt with all of them. And so I think that the church was established. So God established four institutions: the individual, the family, the nation, and the church. But interestingly, he tasked the church to make disciples of all nations. And that's where I find my grounding as far as seeing my service to the country as an answer to the Great Commission. Because the church is the only of the four institutions that God has created that he gave the mandate to minister to the other three. And so I didn't see service to the country, service to individuals, service to families as exclusively located in what we are doing within a particular congregational arrangement. Because, you know, the fact of the matter is there are more people outside of the church operating in the society than there are in the church. And so for me, it was very important to locate my ministry, my purpose within that broader context. And it led me to studying and working with different state institutions, the military, and so on, and so on, to ensure that as a country that we are sufficiently effecting the nation for the kingdom of God. You know, so that has always been an important part of my sense of what it is to be a kingdom citizen, and how I live my life, you know, in service to God. Yeah.
How has young people we are going to be celebrating 60 years of independence,
Yeah.
on the 31st of August.
Yeah.
How has young people contributed to the development of Trinidad and Tobago in our 60 years of independence?
Yeah, that's a big one, and I, you know, it's important for us to be able to do that kind of taking that serious kind of a look. But before I answer that question, Sister Dates, I just want to take the opportunity to say to Makeda, so you're in Switzerland now, which should be about 5 hours ahead of us. That's correct? Oh, okay, you're in Trinidad. Okay, great. But you know, even so, you know, Sister Dates, I'll tell you, one of the things that I think it's important for us to locate is the fact that young people has always been a part of every major development of this country. You know, when you think about our independence in 1962, there were a lot of young people who saw independence and believed in independence. And the leaders of the day, they worked very hard to represent the aspirations of what it is to be an independent state to the young people. Dr. Eric Williams was particularly affiliated to the education sector of the country. And as a result of that, a lot of young people who were involved in the education system saw independence as an opportunity for us to be able to achieve our young aspirations as a country. And so the birth of the nation was pretty much tied ideologically and to this notion of us as young people having greater opportunities than we would have had under colonial rule. Now, by 1970, it was clear to us that political independence did not necessarily mean economic independence. And that's an important distinction to make, because when you think about what was happening across a lot of the post-colonial countries, because Trinidad and Tobago wasn't the only country in the region to have achieved independence during that period between the late 50s and early 60s. Most of the countries that are around us, several of them were pursuing independence as well. And so by the late 1960s into the early 70s, there was this discord between what it meant to now being a politically independent country, but the economic opportunities for development and advancement of young people in the society wasn't as forthcoming. And yet again, what we saw was really young people rising up and taking, action, civil action and otherwise, to be able to stake our claim as young people in terms of being able to move this country towards a more merit-based society, and that there were certain sectors that young people felt were not available for us to be employed. And I mean, Makeda is still talking about that in terms of her own young experience. And that was the case. And it was a lot of young people. When you think about that revolutionary generation during the Black Power movement and so on, Makandel Daga and so on, these were young people. They were people who would have qualified to be on your program today, Reverend Dates. But yet they had a sense of the society and that sense of this gap between their aspirations and the structure of the society not being able to afford them the opportunity to pursue their goals and aspirations. And they took action, and that's an important juncture in the development of our country. The fact that young people played such an active role in revolutionary, albeit not always as peaceful as we wanted it to be, but certainly that call, that collective sense of we will participate in seeing a better Trinidad and Tobago move forward on the basis of meritocracy and so on. But then when you speed forward as well to 1990, I mean, I was a 20-year-old young man in 1990. I stood on the top of the Lady Young and watched the capital of the country burning. And, whether we are in agreement with the actions of the insurrectionists or not, and I'm certainly not in agreement with the actions that they took. When you look at the age of some of the young people that Yassin Abubakar was able to lead into this mutiny, this insurrection, these people were, a lot of them would have been young people. I mean, the youngest was about 14 years old. And so, young people again played a part in that period in our country's history in very fundamental ways. I would like to think that as a young 20-year-old, I had just left secondary school in 1987, and there were not much by way of employment opportunities for us and so on. It was very difficult. And I mean, in that time, there was nothing like GATE and all of these young programs that are available now. It was really, really difficult, And but my generation of young people who was 20 years old in 1990, we were not necessarily the generation of revolution, as was the case in 1970, but we were the generation of consolidation. We worked to consolidate this democracy. We participated in rebuilding the institutions that were destroyed during the 1990 attempted coup. And so yet again, you see the role of young people playing a very, very important role from the 90s onward to be reestablished. So a lot of people who were in the early 20s, late teens during the 1990s, a lot of us joined state institutions, whether it's the military or the police or fire or prisons or the public service, working towards rebuilding the country better than it was before the 1990 attempted coup. And then when you speed forward to what we are seeing in certainly in the 2000s, a lot of what is happening today is driven by young people. There's a movement towards young tech entrepreneurship and so on, not necessarily focused on revolution in the 70s or consolidation in the 90s and early 2000s, but certainly moving towards a more innovative approach to the development of the country. A lot of the innovation that we are seeing moving forward today is really driven by young people. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about what this new generation of young adults can bring to the society as we work together towards moving the country forward. But I'll tell you something about this, what I've observed about these young people today. They're far more organized in their ability to create opportunities outside of the state institutions of jobs and so on. And Makeda talked about that. You know, if you can't find a job, you create one. And you know, it's pretty much in line with moving us away from the kind of dependency we've had on energy rents for a long time in this country, and the diversification of the economy, and certainly the movement towards a far more competitive sectors is going to be based on our ability to be innovative. And I'm excited about what young people could do in this regard. Yeah.
Very nice. We have Makeda with us again. And Makeda, thanks for coming back. I know it's difficult, you know, baby is teething.
He's teething.
Yes. He's up again.
Yeah.
My sister just gave me a trick. I don't really give him videos, but let's see if that works for like 2 minutes.
All right. What experience did you gain representing Trinidad and Tobago as ambassador to Switzerland?
What type of experience?
Yeah, you gained.
Well, you saw how the world is run. Sometimes you sit and you have media and you have communication, you have your tertiary education, but you saw how the world is really run, how the decisions are being made, the propaganda, the multilateral organizations, consensus. You understood what the power of presence and voice.
Right.
Because in some international spaces, you don't even have to say something. If it's a small country, you make your presence known. In certain spaces, you send the message. And then you also understood the power of voice. Like in the UN, is all about consensus, which doesn't mean that everybody has to agree with what is put on the table.
Right.
It does mean if one party says, I do not agree, it stops. It means it has to be revisited, it has to be reconsidered. It means the decision might even be changed. And we saw that when some of the big players decided they're going to do this, and some of the organizations felt they were going to fall apart. So you understand, even as a small country, and I love Mia Mottley, Prime Minister Mia Mottley. You see how she's being and vocal, climate change, and things that affects us. You understand that one small voice can literally make a difference in these spaces. And then it transcends to the lower level. Even at the smallest and the lowest level, one voice can make a difference just the same. So it was like a confirmation for me on different levels, how the world runs, how things get changed. Yes, it starts at the bilateral talks and the multilateral talks, because talking is important, is where the ideas are brought forward, their discussion. But after that, there comes a level of responsibility, commitment, financial, otherwise, then there's action. So it was fascinating to see the world at play.
Right. Very good. And how has your relationship with God influenced your public life?
1 second.
Richard, I'll come back to you.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
You were talking about the young people and
I believe she's back. Yeah.
I'm back. So I was saying that as a child, my role models were Joseph and Daniel and Esther, because it seemed, you grew up in poverty, limited opportunities. You don't really know people who are considered successful. Everybody, I remember we had a joke, we would say, nobody felt they were betting anybody because we were all poor. You know what I'm saying? Right. And you didn't care that you were poor. There was a humility about that. You had food, your father had a car. You didn't even think you were poor. You just knew you had what you needed, and that was life. It's only when you went into the bigger world, people put you into these boxes, and people say you can do this and you can't do that. So you just were grateful for life because you didn't know better. And I think having those spiritual role models were important for me. I think even as an adult, when I had to decide if I want to say yes to these roles, because It had to be something bigger than Makeda having a desire to serve. It had to be divine intervention, because some of them, I would say no, like, no, I'm good. Bye. I'm not interested.
Right.
So I think for a lot of it, it was the spiritual upbringing. It was the leadership, spiritual leadership from young, hearing of the stories of David and Joseph and Esther, and as young as they were, how they were called to lead and do great things for their people.
Right.
That definitely
Wow.
had made an impact upon my own life as a young person.
Very nice. And seeing that we are about to celebrate our 60th year of independence on the 31st of August, what is your hope for us on the way forward? And where do you see yourself fitting into the picture?
That last question, no comment. The first one, I would say, we need to know what we want as a country. We are 59 going on 60, joking with some friends, and we're saying, yeah, then we still behave like teenagers sometimes. And I know we compare ourselves to countries who are 102, 100 years old. But if you look at their history, when they were 10 and 15 and 20 and 25 and 45, the foundations were being set over and over and over.
Wow.
It was not they had a constitution 200 years ago and then you did anything in the process, because then you would be 100-year-old who acting like a 1 year 100 times over. So I would love to see us decide what we want as a people. I would love to see us not say, well, all of them corrupt, what you gonna do? I have no power. Understanding that the power lies with us. Living
Yes.
in Switzerland, they
Yes.
are direct democracy, meaning that the people make the decisions. The people decide what happens in my community, if there's a one-way street, if there's a park, if there's a school in this location. It
Wow.
blows my mind every time I see it. And I know it might seem a little bit far removed from who we are, but we may not even want that. Whatever we want, I think we have to decide. And I like what Richard said, we need to organize. Because if we organize ourselves, we will realize the power that we have as a people. What role do I play? I believe that you don't need a title to serve. I believe that you
Definitely.
should be a leader wherever you are. You should be shining your light wherever you're called.
That's
And
right.
even if I'm out of the country, I still have my charity that is actively doing work in the schools. We're in 17 schools and one university now. I still believe we work with the elderly for Christmas time to make sure they have some cheer. And there are more plans we have. So I still believe wherever you are, you have a responsibility to shine. You have a responsibility to do. You have a responsibility to not stay quiet, because light cannot hide. If
That's
you're in
right.
darkness, you will shine. And for those who might think you need to have a political title to lead, one little
Okay, Major Lynch, I'll come back to you with the same question.
well, they say he's stubborn like me. They say I was stubborn like that. One sister says he doesn't want to be on camera. But I think it's important for us to really want to know what we want and then go after it.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
literally as easy and as difficult as that. Because it's like, think of your own life. If you decide I have a 1 bedroom, I need to have a 2 bedroom, you plan towards that. If you decide I have 5 O-levels, I want a degree, you plan towards that. So as a country, we must decide what we want and work towards that.
Yes. I'll come to you with the same question,
Yeah.
Major Lynch.
Yes, sir.
What is your hope for us on the way forward? We're going to be 60, 60 years of
Yeah.
independence. What is your hope for us? And where do you see yourself fitting into the picture? If
Well,
you do see yourself fitting into the picture.
Yeah. Rev, I tell you, I think that Trinidad and Tobago, we are at a particularly interesting juncture in our development. I think in several ways, a country is developed intergenerationally.
Yes.
And it is important for each generation to set the conditions for the generation that comes after to be productive, to be effective, right? And I think one of my concerns as far as where we are, I'm not sure that the generation of young people today, 35 years and younger, that we have sufficiently educated them about the value of statehood. And a lot of that, some of that may not be as a result of us not trying, but I mean, we are living in an age where there's a lot of education that is going on outside of the traditional means like school and so on. I mean, once you have a smartphone in your hand, there's a lot of education that is going on that quite frankly, our traditional institutions have no direct control over. But I think as well it's important for us to recognize that as a country, it's not easy to govern a country like Trinidad and Tobago. We are not a what you call a homogeneous society. We have come here under very different circumstances. I remember some years ago I was part of a team that was designated to draft a national security policy. And one of the things we had to grapple with is, well, what are the interests and aspirations of the country that we're supposed to defend and secure?
Right. Wow.
And one of the things that we were grappling with is, what is this thing called multiculturalism? What do we mean by us being a multicultural or multi-ethnic society?
Society.
Does it mean that we are multicultural? Does multiculturalism mean that we've come from different parts of the world, Africa, India, Europe, Middle East, and we abandon all of our distinct culture from the places that we came from and create a melting pot and create some new culture that doesn't necessarily resemble what each of us came from? Or does multiculturalism mean that you maintain your distinction, but you operate in this society on the basis of coexistence and mutual respect
Okay.
for other cultures?
Yes. Yes.
And I think we are somewhere in the middle there. In some instances, we have created a melting pot, and in other instances, we are fighting to maintain our distinction. And it is reflective in the kind of politics that we are practicing today. I mean, in some instances, we are working together in some areas, and in other areas, we are quite very much apart. And that kind of dissonance, I think, is what we are struggling to find a balance towards. And for that reason, you would find that, in my mind, arriving at policies and prescriptions, because I'm essentially a policy and strategic type consultant, so that to me, the question is, how do you define this place called Trinidad and Tobago in a way that everybody feels a sense of a stake in the place?
Right.
And that's not an easy thing to achieve, particularly when policy prescriptions generally, with our best efforts, sometimes doesn't always offer everybody what everybody wants. So I think
It
that the
can't.
leadership
Yeah.
that is required going forward is our ability to move past, to some extent, this constant sense of what we differ about, and try and work towards identifying those areas that we have in common. And there are areas that we have in common, whether we came from
Yes.
India or Africa or Europe or the Middle East. There are some common interests that our leadership and the culture of how we function in this society must be able to identify and lift up and say, we could agree to disagree on certain areas, but these are the things that we agree on. And because we agree on them, let's see how we could work together in the best interest of advancing all of us. And that's where I see myself. I think my experience and exposure and expertise over the years, I've worked, across many different spheres, to the extent that, being part of a more integrationist approach towards national leadership and development is something I'm very much interested in, and it requires that to move us forward.
Right.
It requires that sense of being able to work together in a culture of mutual respect, and we can agree to disagree respectfully, you know
Definitely.
and that to me is what is extremely important if we want to move this country forward. Yeah.
Right. What are the lessons we can learn as a society in order to set the conditions for young people to contribute to Trinidad and Tobago for the next, let's say, 60 years?
Hmm. Well, one of the things that we have to do is really to, first of all, to help them to understand how we arrived at 60 years of independence.
How
And
do we do that?
first of all, programs like this is extremely important because, and it's one of the reasons, the main reason why I agreed to come on to the program, because it's important for young people to be able to know that other young people in generations before, we were not always not young people.
That's right.
That and
Correct.
that we were young too, and we faced the challenges of our society when we were young adults, and we navigated and negotiated our way through it. And there are some lessons and principles there that I think Makeda and I are both articulating. That is extremely important for young people to hear and know. One of them is the fact that it really doesn't matter where you were born and raised, the community that you were raised in. If
Yes.
you walk with God, and you are prepared to do the work that is necessary for you to make something of yourself in this society, you can, you know and you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you are somebody of value, that you are somebody of
Yes.
worth, and I think we have to do more to be able to help our young people in society to know that we value them. Recently I was driving through Marval because I live in Santa Cruz, and I was 5 cars behind the tires that was burning across the road in protest for a police involved shooting of a young man up in Blanchisseuse.
Right.
And the tires were burning in protest for the shooting. And I stood there. I called the commissioner of police and I told him, well, I'm 5 cars behind this thing. And I'm almost certain that
Hmm.
I would have, not knowing that I was 5 cars behind tires burning, that
Right.
the persons who lit the tires, I might have seen them along the way. Who knows? You know?
Right.
But I went home the night and I got on my Facebook page and I wrote something that I felt was important for them to know, at least those young people who were listening. And my message to them was, don't burn the tires. Use them to plant crops. Use
Wow.
them to create fishing ponds,
Yes.
nurseries for
Yes.
fishers. I asked them to use the tires in the same way that Winston Spree Simon saw old discarded oil drums, or
Powerful.
people used feathers and wires to things that people discard, like old tires, to create
Yes.
mass costumes. Use the discarding words and the derogatory comments. The youths before used those things to create calypso masterpieces, right? And so, out of what people discard, or how people try to discard you in
Yes.
society,
Wow.
tires could be an example not only of resistance but of resilience and our ability to rise through
Bounce
the ashes
back. Yes.
and
Bounce
become
back.
somebody in society.
Yes.
you know and I think one of the things that I would want to communicate to young people as well, I want them to know that Makeda and we faced our set of challenges,
One of my questions. Go
right?
ahead. You go
We
ahead.
faced challenges, and the challenges we faced were no different from the challenges that young people today are facing. But we we made a commitment
Yes.
to be of value to the society.
Excellent.
And once you make that commitment, God brings people around you, and God creates opportunities.
Wow.
And part of it is a faith walk, actually. And Makeda said it. I mean, she did her first degree at CUC and wasn't sure how she was going, and put one foot in front of the other.
Yes.
In my own sphere, I've had times I've had to do that. I've had to just put one foot in front of the other and keep moving. I mean, it doesn't come, just like that. But how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Just keep biting.
One bite at a time.
Biting. I always say, Reverend Dates, it is better to crawl in the right direction than run in the wrong one.
Correct.
And sometimes
Correct.
people see you crawling as a young person. You're moving forward one step by
Yes.
step, and people think, yeah, why are you going through this? The easier route is to go and sell drugs and so on. But I want to say to the young people, don't despise your humble beginnings, and keep putting one foot in front of the other. I guarantee you, it is going to add up to something. The crumbs form into a bread. I tell you, just keep moving forward, and God is going to open doors for you in ways that you never thought possible. Yeah.
Correct. Do you think young people in the church can or should be entrusted with leadership responsibilities on a wide scale?
I think so, but I also think that there was quite a lot of wisdom in what Paul told Timothy as a young pastor, which is
Mhm.
leadership, delegation, and authority should be progressive and incremental. He said to him, be careful not to give young men leadership too early, lest they be consumed with pride and so on. And then he told him, he said, look, you have to demonstrate the ability to be effectively leading at one level in order to be bestowed with responsibility to lead at other levels. And that is because it is important for us to recognize that leadership is not really about us. It's about the people who will benefit from our preparedness to lead at every
Wow.
stage. If you look throughout scripture, Reverend Dates, God always called a man or woman on the basis of the need for leadership in the circumstance.
Correct.
He
Correct.
told Moses, long before Moses saw the bush that was burning and not being consumed, God was hearing the cry of his people in Israel for deliverance, right? The epitome of that is the search in heaven for someone who can rescue humanity. And
Yes.
Christ himself said, prepare a body for me. So the circumstance is what creates the need for the leadership to emerge. And then God brings somebody forward. So that it's important when we begin to talk about this question of should young people be exposed to more leadership. I think it's important for us to be able to define the circumstances in which leadership is needed, and then use
Definitely.
that as a template to be able to identify who is ready
Wow.
to come forward and serve that need of the collective. Yeah.
Right. Um, do you think that um we are putting enough confidence in our young people in church?
Hmm. Well, I think that question comes back to, it's actually building on the answer that I gave before. Those of us who are able to define what is the need in society today, and is able to identify what the church should be able to provide for the society on the basis of what society needs, it's easier to appropriate how young people fit into that arrangement.
But are we fully understanding that they are the ones that will be taking over at some point in time?
Hmm.
Is this
Well,
fully understood?
I think the understanding is based on something that Makeda and I think fully believe in, and that is you build a country, you build an
Mm-hmm.
organization, you build a family on the basis of intergenerational work. And
Okay.
so you have to be able to see young people as an investment in our own future, our collective future. And so the
Definitely.
strategy for exposing them to leadership has to be built on that platform. I tell you, I'll share something with you, Reverend Gates. And I have operated in different spheres in this society, and I'm sure Makeda could bear me out on this. Very soon, it becomes very clear to you, to some of us, as to who are in the room on the basis of deployment as opposed to employment.
Okay.
And a lot of that is tied to families in this country, organizations in this country, being able to identify where they are going to strategically place their young people in order to advance the portfolio of the family or the organization. And so deployment of young people into strategic positions to be able to advance what we do is extremely important.
On that
And
note, hold your point. On that note, I wanted to release Makeda, to go and see about her baby. First of all,
Actually, I was saying I can speak now because he's asleep. So he's asleep. He's teething, and this is his bedtime thing. So this is like
yes,
fussy time. That's 6 or 7. Even when when Yolande told me, I said that is his bedtime. And can we change the time?
Yes.
He said no. I said, well, let's see. My nanny couldn't be here today, and my sister said I have to correct you. If I was in Trinidad, somebody would have Jaira. I'm not in Trinidad. I'm in Guyana on business.
Yes. Wow.
Sorry. Yeah.
Tell me about your you are presently now. I think it's Genesis. Tell me about Genesis, the movement,
the charity.
Yeah.
Okay. So Genesis, the movement, is something I started. If I can respond to something that Major Lynch said earlier, and then I'll come back to Genesis, the movement.
Go ahead.
Richard, that was?
Yes, Richard. Major Lynch sounds good enough. But when I lived Jamaica for 5 years, and I worked for Digicel.
Okay.
I joined Digicel at 29, 30. I had 3 promotions in like 4 years. Insane. Just insane. Management is senior management in the drop of a box. Something that I probably may not have experienced if I was in Trinidad. And I saw an international organization that is a unicorn now because they are a billion-dollar company. Trust young people with power. Gave responsibility, gave boundaries, explained consequences, and let us run with it. It was, I remember The Apprentice was on at that time. And I would say to people, I feel like my job is like The Apprentice. I do this every day. And I was not even 32, 33 when I left. And I had been there 5 years. And I say to people, Digicel spoiled me because I thought other companies were like that. So they're not like that. They don't let people lead, or they just give you a title. You have no real power. I don't know that. That is new for me. I have power. I can make decisions. I can deal with my consequences. So I experienced that. So first I had my church that trusted me very young.
Very nice.
And then I had Digicel, one of my longest jobs I've had. And then I moved to the UAE for work. And the sheikh would say, we created problems for this generation. Let them fix it. This is their generation. Let them fix it.
Wow.
He had a ministry of youth that was like 25 years. Minister of happiness that was under 35. I mean, I'm living in the UAE for 3 years. And I'm wondering like, oh, wow, this is blowing my mind.
Yes.
And not that any of these situations or organizations or countries are perfect, but I'm telling you about people who trust youth with power and the consequences. And I would see in the UAE, like they would have a big governmental project and they will say it will be rolled out on the 10th of January. And we would scoff and say, they're not going to get it ready. And then by the 9th of January, there's a function. And you're like, are they ready? Is it complete? Are you serious? And I know it's a different way of managing. They're not a democracy per se. And then I live Switzerland. And
Yes.
the mayor was probably like, he was younger than me. I met with him when I was ambassador. He was Brazilian by birth. And I'm saying, look at leadership across the world now. And we say it's like a trend. It's not a trend. As Richard was speaking, A.N.R. Robinson was Minister of Finance at 36.
Yeah.
Ellis Clark was ambassador to the United Nations at early 40s. 39 is not even youth. 30s, you know? So consider the 20s and the teenagers, then they feel, well, I guess we can do whatever we want till I'm 40, then I become an adult.
Wow.
Once you trust people with responsibility, you empower them.
Yes.
You
Yes.
show them what is in them and you pull that out of them sooner. Not waiting
Correct.
till 50 and 60 when they should be planning for the second phase of their life, however they want
Yes.
to live. So I am not one who believes in give them time. They don't know if no. We have to create a system that
Yes.
empowers and holds people responsible.
Definitely.
If you do not serve well, you get an opportunity. It doesn't mean that you spoil the chances for those who've come behind. It means the system didn't prepare them well. So you
Wow.
didn't do well, you have to get some consequences. You will be removed. We give another the opportunity. Young
Yes.
people are not like something you throw to clog up your sink. It's what you need to run your country. I live in Europe and they have serious issues with birth rate and productivity levels because they don't
Wow.
have much young people. Because you have an age gap and you have people who not making any children, so they have to bring in the third country and the foreign countries where they need the employment capacity. We have a brain drain problem in the Caribbean and Trinidad and Tobago, where our best and brightest are leaving us
Yes.
because
Yes.
they're not ready. So you put them in a junior position for what purpose? For serve your ego? If we are serious about taking our country forward, you have to trust young people. And that is nothing new to the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Patrick Manning was prime minister under 40, long before there was Obama and all the others. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We have a
Yes.
history of trusting young, bright people to do great things in our country. Nothing has changed. Now we just need to give them that authority and that autonomy again with a system that provides, protects, and disciplines them. Because you learn, there are so many things you don't know as a young person. Hence the reason I think there's a misconception that if we put in the young people, we remove all the old people. No,
Come on.
it doesn't work like that. It's a partnership.
Yes.
So we are in
Yes.
positions of leadership. It means somebody should be guiding us. Somebody should be
Yes.
advising us. Somebody.
Yes.
I had senior advisors and ambassadors, unofficially though, but people who have served Trinidad and Tobago at the highest level, who saw things in me, who reached out, who guided me, who gave their opinions. And I was entirely grateful to know
Yes.
that there are such rich powerhouses sitting there unused. Who decided this young lady is doing something right? Let me make sure she doesn't make the wrong step. Because sometimes we're waiting for the young person to make one wrong step to say, I tell her, yeah, that thing.
That's right. That's right.
I must say, despise not your youth. And I feel so strongly about this in the church, in the community,
Yes.
personally in organizations. We will suffer if we do not utilize the expertise and intelligence, and especially in this generation Z. Oh my, they are beyond intelligent. Jaira was out the womb in 2 weeks telling me how to breastfeed him. Listen, this generation is different.
Different.
The kind of
Different.
genius they're coming with. We have to stand aside and just let them run, but just pull them back if they go in the wrong path. We cannot
Correct.
not allow them into the gate. We cannot say wait till they're ready. They're ready.
Preach, sister.
Them,
My
prepare
goodness.
them, create an opportunity for them, put
Yes.
them there to do what they're called to do.
Yes.
Jump into Genesis, the movement. So I came back home in 2012, and my sister is a teacher, and she was complaining that the young people were not focused on excellence. And I came from a time when you got almost nothing free from the government. You probably got some hot chocolate when you get a injection in primary school. I think that
And
was
biscuit.
we got for free. And then I came back home and everything was for free, like education and grant money and transport for high school. And I said, whoa, they are such a blessed generation.
Yes.
But I think they got so much so quickly, they took their blessings for granted. So her concern was there was an obsession with mediocrity. Everybody wanted to be Kim Kardashian and Beyonce and all these celebrities. Nothing wrong with people making a living, but there's only role models I would choose for our young people.
Correct.
And we started this program because I really wanted to inspire the children who sometimes are neglected, the children who are overlooked, the children who are struggling. We always give the child who's coming first in test. And for many, many moons, I was that child coming first in test. So I would get all the books and sometimes never read them. But yes, I know about that. But the children who came from 25th and moved to 18th, the children who came 30th and moved to 11th, nobody acknowledged them. Nobody gave them any kind of celebration that what you've done is the essence of life. Life is about growth and progress. It's not about where you are, it's how you finish, it's how you push forward. So Genesis was birthed on that because we wanted to inspire those who were not as academically inclined, but felt that they were giving up on the opportunity. So we were pushing them to do a little bit better and see that they too can excel. I remember the first year, a young man made U. And I didn't know we gave U to primary school children. That blew my mind. And he went from U to C minus, which meant his average was like 11 out of 100. And he went to like 60 out of 100 in one school term. Because we offered a free tablet, 1,000 TT, an account with Unitrust. It was meant to incentivize them to move towards greatness. And then the principals loved the program. The children were saying, can my class be a part of it? Because we let the schools choose. And then one thing led to next. Now we're in, 17 schools? One university,
17 schools. You are doing excellent, my dear.
And then for Christmas, we do, because the inspiration is James 1:27, looking at the orphans and the widowed.
Yes.
I always love old people. I was very close to my dad, my uncle, still very close. And a lot of old people who live alone. Nobody give them any cheer for Christmas. Back in the day, if we did anything for my parents, we had to go and sing that song for our auntie on my daddy's side and my auntie on my mommy's side.
Yes.
So on Christmas, we offer packages, food and fruit packages to the elderly and the widowed. So that's what Genesis is basically about.
You are supposed to be having a meeting or something like that tomorrow.
Yes, a GoFundMe. So a lot of our donors are people from the diaspora, those who are in the US or Canada. We've been partnering. We're hoping to partner with some schools in Ghana. So they have been saying, create a GoFundMe, because a lot of people want to see like it's being tracked. Everything is on our Facebook page. You could go on and see the work we've done. We had a students online program for the COVID, giving tablets only, but we've been giving tablets in 2013 because my bachelor's is comsci, telecommunications is my field. So I believe technology is going to be the future. It is the present and the future. And so we need to equip our young people with the tools for them to be ready and running. So our GoFundMe is really launching, just advertising our programs. And if you don't even know us, but you like what you're doing and you want to contribute it, just sign up for a GoFundMe, and whatever you give, the money goes right back to the students.
Very nice. Very nice. Major Lynch, I'm back to you now. How has your relationship with God influenced your public life?
Well, public service is not easy, and in many ways it's quite not necessarily rewarding from a public acclamation perspective. And then the reality is national security in particular is not not an easy field to serve your country.
Yes.
There are a lot of people crying out there for all kinds of different things. But there's a strength, an inner strength that comes with when you think you're doing what God has called you to do.
Yes, definitely.
And I remember when I was in the military, I used to tell people I'm not just in the military, I am military.
Okay.
Nice.
So there's a kind
Both
of
ways. Both
yeah,
ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's a kind of being in touch with who you are, that allows you to be able to do what you do. And who you are, and for my case, in terms of who I am, a lot of it is really me being in touch with God. God, we were built to do what we were born to do. And as I discover more of how I'm built,
Yes.
I see purpose, divine purpose by design. And it's that kind of internal compass, directed by God Himself, allows me to be able to go out there and do what I feel inspired to do. Because I'll tell you this, Reverend Dates, the stage that I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
the private sector is a quite easy direction for me to turn. I mean, private companies, would make proposals and so on from time. Come and help us become more profitable.
Wow. Yes.
Turn, we could double your income in short order. But
Wow.
I say to them quite often, I believe in public institutions. I believe
Yes.
in strengthening the country's systems of governance and public policy. I believe that one of the best ways we could set the conditions for what Makeda is talking about is to be able to create institutions that enable young people and their talent to be able to come forward and serve the country in optimum ways. And if we
Wow.
don't create it, they are going to create their own platforms and do what they have to do, but it might not necessarily be in the best interests of the state in
Correct.
ways that generations before has done it. And so for me, my commitment to state institutions and strengthening state institutions is a big part of how I see God using me. And I continue to follow His lead. Yeah.
Very well. Well, folks, we want to go to see who's live, who's on the live. So we're going to go over to them and hear some of the comments. We have Karen McNeil, Bienvenido Caterers, June Melville. June Melville is saying, without Jesus, there's no peace. Correct. We have Evelyn Macy. She's saying, well said, Richard. Who else we have? We have Mary Batista saying, I think this needs to be incorporated in our church culture. When I look at everyone, I would understand what she's saying. Nicole Stapleton is saying, I totally agree. Give the young people a chance. They will do well. Give them the opportunity. I can't stop saying it enough, Nicole. You are so correct. We have Leah Alexander Asun. She's saying, leadership in itself is a lifestyle and not a role. And young people can identify the two. They just need people who really care. Wow. Let's see what else we have. Karen is saying my nephew on the show. That's your sister.
Yeah.
Wow. We have Rossi Ishmael come with us. He's saying this man has a wealth of knowledge, a good man to listen to, a good man and a good woman to listen to. June Melville is saying June Melville was a senator, and she's saying more power to the people in the communities, more community involvement. Wow, we have Gemma Legaton and Pastor Legaton. She is saying, good interview. Good interview. We want to thank all of you on today. And listen now, we have a surprise for you. We going just now. We going. We have a surprise for you. You online. We have 2 giveaways. And we're going to ask you 2 questions. And the person who answers the question first is going to be the winner of the giveaways. We're going to give you the results of the giveaway tomorrow. Please go. We're going to put it online, right? We have a giveaway from Candy Girls, and Candy Girls giveaway is a $400 voucher. Candy Girls is a ladies boutique store, and they are at Shops of Arima. And to get this voucher, just answer this question I'm going to give you. What year did Trinidad and Tobago became a republic? Come on, people. Get on it. What year did Trinidad and Tobago became a republic? You're going to win yourself a $400 voucher from Candy Girls of Shops of Arima. Okay, I'm not seeing any answers yet. You all thinking. I will look back and see who is the first person to come up with the answer. June Melville is saying, Mr. Lynch is a man of wisdom. Okay, my second question will be, and this is going to be a lady's purse coming from Petra's Boutique in Couva. And my second question is, Trinidad and Tobago, who was our first president? Trinidad and Tobago, the first president of Trinidad and Tobago. And you will still have a chance to answer the questions. We will look back and see who gave the answer first, right? And we will say who is the winner. We will put the winner online tomorrow. We want to say thanks to our special guest, Major Lynch. It's a pleasure having you here. And Ambassador Antoine-Cambridge. I know this had been a great program and knowledge went out. People learn. Some people know something for the first time. Some people would understand, okay, we have so much of young, wealthy knowledgeable people in our country. And, they are ready to lead in every way, every sphere of life. They are ready to lead. They are just ready. And I want to say thanks to both of you. Thanks for serving our country. Sometimes we take people like you all for granted, and we just look at, at lights like presidents, prime minister, and blah, blah, blah. But I want to say thank you, Major Richard, for serving our country. Thank you, Makeda, Antoine-Cambridge, for serving our country. I am so, I'm going to use you. I'm so proud of you all, giving your best at these young ages. As the word of God says, he called the young because they're strong. Yeah. Not only to be in the 4 walls of the church, but to be of great asset even to society, even the country. And this is what you all did, and this is what you all are doing. And from the point of youths with a difference, I want to say thank you all so much. I appreciate you all as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. Looking forward to 60 years of independence, and you all giving within the 60 years you all gave, and you know what? You all are still going to give. I want to say thanks. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you. I don't allow a guest to leave my program without praying for them. So I'm going to say a quick prayer for you all. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your goodness and your mercy. We thank you for our guests who, oh God, is giving so much to society, who God is giving of themselves to the church, giving of themselves to the country. And we are so excited for them. We are so excited for what, oh God, you have in store for them. We are so excited for what else on your agenda for them. We ask, God, to keep them covered under your precious blood. Take care of their going out and their coming in. Oh God, cover their families, Father, whatever area they are serving in, oh God, continue to help them to be a force to be reckoned with, all for your honor and for your glory. As they serve country, continue to help them to remain humble and allow the honor and the glory to go to you. To remain humble, oh God, and make a difference in our country. Make a difference, oh God, in the world. Make a difference to whoever they are going to come in contact with. Father, keep them, oh God, in your guidance, in your care. And we say thank you again for allowing them, oh God, to lead, allowing them, oh God, to take charge, allowing them to give out and give back, oh God, in every way they are serving. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I want to encourage you. I
Amen.
always say to young people, keep your head on and your spirit sweet. Allow the love of Christ to continue to be your way of life. Whatever you do, whichever way you are serving, don't let the love of Christ stop being your way of life. And listen to me, I see great and great success for both of you. I don't know who is not putting confidence, but I have confidence in both of you. Lots of confidence. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure having you on Youth with a Difference. God bless you richly.
Thank you. It was a
You're
pleasure.
welcome. You online, we want to say thank you for being with us. You all are good company. We look forward to seeing you again next week, Saturday, God's willing. Have a blessed rest of the weekend. God bless you all. Listen to me. We're going to go off for this one. We're going to go off for this one. And we
Okay.
are going off with
Bye,
all
everybody.
of this month. You know, I love to say, I love my country. We love our country. God bless our nation.
God bless a nation of many varied races.
May we possess that common love that binds and makes us one. Let it be known around the world that we can boast of unity and take up pride in our liberty. God bless our isles of tropic beauty rare, of flaming Poinciana and shady immortal, the war